And
Okay.
thank you for being here, both of you.
Well, thank you for having us. Like, we are really excited. So, and incredibly nervous because there's just so many unknowns still in this field. Like, it's a very large arena to kind of step into and start doing some making connections of all the things that are involved with this, not just from the tech side, but definitely the EH side. Um, I think, Arnaud, are you going to share the slides first? Because you're going to talk then. I'm going to introduce myself and then he's going to introduce himself and kind of take over. So, yeah. So you see that there? Everybody sees his, yes, I do. So, of course. So, we had to come up with this title for this presentation, and I think Arnaud and I were in Italy. I remember the room that we were in. So we went and traveled for 3 months last year in the fall, and Bob's like, "We need your title." And of course, we wait till the last possible day because we're traveling. So I think it's December 8th or something, and we're like, what do we call this thing? Because it's and even doing the title took research because how do you really encapsulate what this EH psychotherapy concept and then this artificial intelligence really is? So this is the title we started with. Future Minds, a Tapestry of Existentialism and Mental Well-Being in the Age of AI, which thank you, AI, for helping us come up with that fancy sounding title. Um, and I've actually changed the title as of today. So if Arnaud, you could go to the second slide. Here's the new title, More Questions Than Answers. Can EH practice save humanity? And what is our responsibility in understanding and relating with the world of artificial intelligence? So I'm Christy. I have been in Bob's consultation groups. I've been attending EH presentations for probably like over 10 years now. I started it when I was in grad school. I was like, I always knew I enjoyed the existential perspective, but then it was like thrilling to know that the EH Northwest existed. So I would try to make it to like the yearly in-person conferences and things. Um, but I'd always kind of like I kind of understand it. I know the main concepts, but I think it was this presentation and then I also have a client who came to see me, like who's interested in a therapist, existential humanist perspective. I'm like, I really need those core skills. So I did the EH Institute's core skills presentation or weekend workshop online a couple weeks ago, and Bonnie was the person in our small group, like one of the facilitators, along with Kirk. So it felt like a true pleasure over that weekend to really be immersed in like the EH core skills. And I do not think that my presentation would be at all what it is today had I not gone to that
Mm.
weekend experience. You know, not only for the content that I learned, but also just the experiential piece that was part of that. And I really hope that what you see today, oh, and I'm in private practice in Salem, Oregon. I've been in individual practice for 5 years. I came from the state hospital setting and then working in schools before that. Um, but yeah, private practice. And then I really think that's it. You're going to learn a little bit more about me, I guess, as I do some of my talking about technology and stuff. But I think that's it about me. So I'm going to pass it over to my husband because I would not also be able to do this presentation without him because this topic required a lot of dialogue. And so he and I have been talking a lot about things. And I also was like, I have to have you part of this to talk about the tech piece. Um, and also to field any questions. I'm guessing maybe Dave could have answered any questions about tech stuff somewhat. No? Okay. But I thought Arnaud, he has way more knowledge in that area than I do. And I'll let him kind of take it from here.
Good afternoon, everybody. So my name is Arnaud Verstuyf. I'm Christy's husband, and I am a software engineer by education and trade. I was told to go personal, but I'm not sure I have a lot to say. I have no background in mental health. I'm currently taking a course on Stoicism. So when Bob remarked I wasn't reacting to him, but keeping a straight face, that's my Stoic face. Why is this interesting to me? The intersection of computer science and philosophy has been debating AI for a long time. And it's an interesting and definitely now a pertinent subject that allows us to touch on many of the things that make us a human. But today I'm going to speak on the history and the state of the current AI systems and answer any amount of your related questions. So we divided up our presentation in 5 parts. We're going to start with the state of artificial intelligence, where it comes from and where it currently is. We're going to move into existential humanism and mental health and AI. Then we're going to touch on capitalism, threats, and ethics. And then finally, we're going to end with proposing some questions and have a discussion about the topic.
Great. So also, maybe I'll say Arnaud and I are in the same house. We both like our offices a lot, so we're in just different rooms. We were debating about being on screen together versus apart, and this, you know, you just we're creatures of habit, aren't we? So I always loved Bob's consultation groups because he would always kind of get us to kind of, you know, really check in, like slow things down a bit, even though this presentation will end up going quite fast, I feel like, at the end. But here at the beginning, that we can kind of just like slow down and, you know, if you have a chance, you can close your eyes, but just to really take just a minute and really get a sense of what is present for you regarding this topic. What is present for you regarding this unknown aspect of artificial intelligence and whatever may come in the future with it, how it maybe shows up in your life right now, or any kind of confusion maybe that you have about it. Just kind of see what you notice and what's kind of emerging. Okay. And so just to kind of really get us here in this place of openness and, you know, presence regarding learning and experiencing what all of this means, I would love it if, yeah, we can actually pop on, if you don't mind, just instead of dropping it in the chat, if you have a couple words to describe what your experience is.
Here I can say is what comes up and why I was interested when I first spoke to you, Christy, is this is what I thought was the case. And then out of my respect for you, it's not like, oh, it doesn't have to be. But the question is, will AI objectify human beings? Because that's so much the opposite to me of what the existential philosophy is. And then the other part is, I want to learn and discover the value of AI and how it intersects with existential humanistic psychotherapy and psychotherapy in general.
Okay, so some concern, but also curiosity. Okay.
Yeah, I would say I feel exactly like that. First, it's curiosity, and then some apprehension that I may not completely understand that world of AI. That language is not one I am proficient in. So I hope to learn more today. So I have definitely hope.
Okay. Anybody else?
Well, I always love intelligence. I've always been drawn to that. But AI to me is a little bit ominous because it's the intelligence without the heart, the head without the heart, I believe. So how does that connect with humanism?
Okay. So curious. All right.
So I'm curious how it's going to show up in a way that artificial intelligence and its presence in people's lives, how it's going to both enhance and limit. What are the enhancements? What are the limitations to people getting familiar with their inner world?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you.
I also have some concerns, but I will go back to what I mentioned earlier. I sat with several years ago someone at Intel who was doing the cutting edge development research and stuff in AI. And they shared with me the power that existed even then. This was before it became all out there and popular. And hearing the power available in these kinds of approaches and the already ethical concerns and warnings about something so powerful being in the hands of corporate capitalists and police states, governments. I was kind of like, oh, come on. He's like, no, you have no idea what this stuff can do. And we need to be careful who gets to wield this power because it's huge. And I was a little scared because I believe it'll absolutely objectify people in a certain way, more like turning them into objects of a crowd and making decisions and judgments about an individual based on so-called objective criteria that it's just dangerous in that sense. I'm a little concerned. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Well, for time's sake, I think we'll go ahead and not do my poll. I was gonna, and I think because I kind of get a sense of everybody's level of interaction, I was gonna ask a bit about what everybody's level of your experiences with AI, and it ranged all the way from I have no idea what that even means to I'm not at all interested to being curious and hopeful, which I'm hearing those words too, to people being informed but not having a use, to using it personally and professionally. So to get just a hand, does anybody actually use it personally? Use AI personally?
No.
Or do you not know if you use it? I think you're going to find out right now. So Arnaud's going to take it away, and here we go. Put on your seatbelts.
Christy,
Yeah.
it's pretty cool that two of the people in this group use it.
I don't know what your Zoom screen looks like, or if this is just the host's screen, but at the bottom where you have like chat and stuff like that, there's an AI companion icon on the bottom of the Zoom screen now. I have no idea what it does, but it's offering itself as a friendly companion.
I think that's the otter that Charlotte was talking about. Yeah. It will actually do the transcription of the Zoom for you while you're doing it. So, yeah. But it might also say nice things to you. Who knows? All right, go for it, Arnaud.
All right, let's fly over the state of artificial intelligence. I'm going to mostly skip over the technical underpinnings and define AI by talking about perception and function. We're going to start with this.
We're entering an era in which our enemies can make it look like anyone is saying anything at any point in time, even if they would never say those things. So, for instance, they could have me say things like, I don't know, Killmonger was right, or Ben Carson is in the sunken place, or how about this, simply, President Trump is a total and complete dipshit. Now, you see, I would never say these things, at least not in a public address, but someone else would. Someone like Jordan Peele. This is a dangerous time. Moving forward, we need to be more vigilant with what we trust from the internet. That's a time when we need to rely on trusted news sources. It may sound basic, but how we move forward in the age of information is going to be the difference between whether we survive or whether we become some kind of fucked up dystopia. Thank you, and stay woke, bitches.
So AI is changing our basic assumptions. Let me first talk about the history. The idea of an artificial intelligence is not new. Humans have always been fascinated by the concept of creating life, going back thousands of years. Before Christ, in Greek mythology, the gods imbued life into humanoid statues. And in the Middle Ages, Jewish mythology had clay servants called golems brought to life and imbued with purpose by placing a script inside the mud. Making a jump, in 1872, Samuel Butler's novel Erewhon explored concepts of machine consciousness and evolution. And he was inspired by Darwin's then recently published On the Origin of Species. The term robot itself was first used by Czech playwright in 1920. The word robot is derived from the Czech word robota, meaning forced labor or drudgery. Following that, in 1927, the movie Metropolis paints a futuristic urban dystopia where these autonomous robots rise up against the human overlords. And then in 1950, Alan Turing devises the famous Turing test to gauge, theoretically, a machine's ability to exhibit intelligent behavior equivalent to that of a human by ways of conversation. And then finally, in the summer of 1956, Dartmouth College organizes the Summer Research Project on Artificial Intelligence, bringing together 20 scientists while coining the term artificial intelligence. And this event is attributed with the conception of the scientific field of artificial intelligence. Question: have we achieved intelligence today? Has the original idea materialized? Well, the short answer is yes. AI exists. But on the slides, you have a longer answer that gives us three important insights. First, the first paragraph shows how the 70-year-old vision has been at least partially realized. We have these systems that can take an enormous amount of data, learn from it, see patterns, and then make predictions or take actions based on that analysis. While the second paragraph describes how current AI are still very specialized. They tend to be good at mostly one thing. The third paragraph, we see that despite their impressive capabilities, the AI are far from matching the full range of human intelligence. We are nowhere near what's called artificial general intelligence. And that's defined as a machine able to learn any task an animal or human can perform, including the use of natural language, learning new skills, and engage in conceptual reasoning. Today's AI shows proficiency in the use of natural language, but neither autonomous learning nor any reasoning skills. In other words, what comes out can never be more than the sum of what was put in. So where do we see these AIs today? The AI systems have been around for a while, probably measured in decades. The older systems, less sophisticated, are prevalent in various aspects of our daily lives, but tend to stay in the background. They're conceptually more simple. So, for example, you have email software, which filters out spam based by analyzing the content. A little bit more complex, we have smart thermostats at home, which learn our preferred temperatures at different times of the day, or even based on the room we are in. And then more recent, more complex systems, for example, improvements in vehicle safety and autonomy. A car can use cameras to keep itself centered in the lane, or even avoid another car crossing into that lane. So these are just a couple examples. On the slide, you see a lot more fields are touched by these AI. But AI is continually expanding into new domains and industries, changing how we interact with technology, while also improving efficiency and decision-making in these fields.
I think we should raise of hands who actually uses AI in some way. More people should be raising their hands, probably.
We all use AI, even if you don't know it.
Everybody's using it. It's out there. It's in your world.
All right. Now, what about generative AI? When in the late 2022, the world was introduced to the large language model ChatGPT, it was for many the first time they became aware of AI. ChatGPT is interactive, can understand complex questions proposed in natural language, and seemingly has an answer to every one of those questions. And for the first time, a publicly available system was shown to be useful in a general sense. Welcome to generative artificial intelligence. It's a subset of artificial intelligence that focuses on the creation of new content based on patterns and examples from existing media. To make that happen, the models are trained on large sets of media, text, images, music, something else, creating a probabilistic model, and then it can generate new original content that resembles the original media was trained on. Think of these models as summaries of all the knowledge the model has been trained on, not necessarily in a way that mimics human memory or understanding. For those following the news, we now seem to have publicly available generative AI for several applications. The slide shows a couple examples there. Maybe you heard about the recent AI-generated audio message of President Biden attempting to dissuade registered Democrats from voting in the New Hampshire primary election. Or the video of President Obama I played earlier, where several of these generative AIs were applied to general effect. So this is also imperfect. Well, the technology used for these modern AI mimic how the mammalian brain works by using something called neural networks. As a result, and just as with our own brains, we only understand vaguely how AI models work. The internal functioning is a mystery or a black box. However, we can observe the output, and there seems to be some common problematic behaviors. First, AI is non-deterministic. Asking the same question multiple times leads to different answers with small or large differences. And AI cannot reason about the media it has been trained on. It just looks for patterns without understanding context or causation. As a result, it can find correlations that will be obviously wrong to a human. And this makes the current generation AI technology very strong in creative endeavors, but untrustworthy when it comes to factual matters. Prompt engineering. Interacting with the generative AI happens through natural language. No coding or programming is necessary. But to get something useful out of a generative AI, asking the right question in the right way is important. Usually, the more specific the question, the more useful the answer. Cue the art of prompt engineering. And I have a couple examples of prompt engineering with the responses from the AI, but to save time, I'm just going to show the prompts, and you can read the answers that the AI gave yourself in the notes of the slides. For example, you can ask an generative AI to write a letter to the president, convincing him that more ice cream flavors are needed. Limit the letter to 2 paragraphs and write in the style of Yoda. So what I got here was actually 4 paragraphs of results, definitely in the language of Yoda, which is very specific. And the letter ends in, "May the force of flavor be with you." This one is about having a conversation with an AI. Here I describe how the AI should behave, who I am, and what we're going to discuss. And the result was a 5-minute discussion on the topic between me and the AI within its persona. The third example I have is maybe a bit more practical, maybe useful for some of the people here. Give me a 10-day itinerary for traveling around Vietnam. For somebody interested to work remotely in healthcare and culture. So I got a very nice itinerary with things you can visit in Vietnam I never heard about. Definitely worth trying out. And then the last one I have is about generating images. I asked the system, give me an illustration of dinosaurs drawn by a child. The illustrations are cute and heartwarming. And that came up with this. 4 results. And interesting, they're conceptually different. One on the top right is a child drawing a dinosaur.
Or playing with a dinosaur, yeah.
I think it's
Like
holding a
that.
pen. It's actually
Oh, on
drawing
the
the
dinosaur.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
As the question to the AI was, as drawn by a child, so this does fit my question.
The child is drawing it. Yeah.
The answer is just not as I expected it.
Yeah.
The only thing is the first one could be a little bit scary. The one on the very left.
Well, that's a great demonstration of the power. I mean, that is really incredible results based on your prompt. Amazing.
Yeah, and it can just go over and over and over and over again like that. I mean, you've seen the photos of like people with like 3 arms or like a weird leg. You can do all kinds of pictures in some of these systems. It's really impressive. We've had a lot of fun playing around with some of the photo prompt sites. Were you going to say something, Arnaud? Looks like you're about ready to talk.
Well, I was going to say that there's many creative uses for this, but that will be a whole workshop.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. We're only like 15 minutes behind, so we'll see how I can catch up with all this. So existential humanism, how does it fit in? Well, I'm going to pick up right where Arnaud kind of leaves off with the tech part of it. I'm not sure if anybody's familiar, but with ELIZA, but Eliza is actually one of the first like chat bots that was ever created, and it was in the field of psychotherapy. So this was developed in the mid-1960s. Joseph Weizenbaum, a computer scientist at MIT, simulated a conversation with a human by using pattern matching and simple language processing techniques. So it emulated a Rogerian psychotherapist and was primarily designed to demonstrate the superficiality of a human-computer interaction. So it is widely regarded as one of the earliest and most influential chatbots, marking the beginning of the field. So it has definitely evolved from there. It's not as superficial as it once was, but I'm going to give you an example of that in just a second. So 1 year ago, I was where many people are, which is like, I knew nothing about this. I thought it sounded scary. I didn't want anything to do with it. I had just no interest in AI, even though my husband kept, mentioning it every now and again. I was like, I don't know anything about tech. I can't listen. And then we went to a conference in April, and Sam Altman, the CEO of ChatGPT, of OpenAI, which makes ChatGPT, he spoke alongside of Jack Kornfield, the Buddhist meditation guy. And there were also some other interesting speakers that more from the humanist side of things. It was definitely not a tech conference, as Arnaud would say. It was more of how does technology influence our humanity. And I think that going to those talks like really shifted me and my interest in this topic, because I realized just how impactful it could be for where we're going in our future. So I started learning as of April last year. By August, I'm like, I want to figure out a way to synthesize all these things that I've learned to maybe share with other people that have been in my situation. So we presented with an online community of therapists that I'm on. It's like a global network, and just a small, nice group again. But we had 3.5 hours to talk about and discuss and go into it. So maybe something will evolve to get a more discussion going in this in the future from an EH perspective, because I think there's a lot here. So this is really just an intro. So let's see, 1 month ago, I finally get back from traveling. I'm like, I need to focus on this presentation. So I decided I'm taking the core skills training. I'm doing a lot of reading. I'm really starting to figure out the EH integration into all of the AI research we had already done and put together. And then 2 weeks ago, when I was in the core skills group, I woke up in the middle of the night on the Friday night, and I could not sleep. This whole like EH stuff mixing with AI just started creating like a gigantic puzzle in my brain. And so I was so anxious. I was so confused. What can I do about this? So in the middle of the night, I look up an AI chatbot tool, actually, and it was called Young, as in Carl Jung, GPT. So I began to have a conversation with it. Young GPT calls itself the world's first emotional reflective feedback tool. So at this point, let's see. So this would be a example of that. It's as if a therapist is in your pocket. 80% of users report an elevation in mood after a session with Young GPT. So again, middle of the night, Arnaud and the dogs are snoring next to me, and I start with my first prompt. I am thinking about a presentation I have to give and wondering how to present so much information in so little time. All right, and so what you're going to see next is actually I used some AI avatars and an AI voice modeling to create a video of the conversation that I had with Young GPT. Okay. I hired a couple actors. No, this is just using a site. This is me. This is Young.
That definitely sounds like a challenge when you've got a wealth of information to share, but only a limited amount of time. When it comes to presentations, prioritizing key points can be really helpful. Maybe think about what the core message is that you want your audience to walk away with. What are the essential things they absolutely need to know? Is there anything different about this one compared to others you've done before?
I'm uncertain about what to focus on specifically, and I think I am feeling a bit intimidated by the audience. They are very deep and complex thinkers, and I am concerned that what we share may not be experienced as useful information.
Christy, feeling intimidated in such a situation is quite natural. Speaking to an audience of deep and complex thinkers means they're likely looking for thought-provoking and meaningful content. Reflecting on your own expertise as a therapist, you might draw parallels between therapy concepts and the themes of your presentation to create a captivating narrative. What elements of your work do you find resonate deeply with people that might also engage such an intellectual audience?
Well, I find that in my work, it is the connection I make with my clients and understanding who they are and supporting them in their growth is the most important factor. But what if they don't need me after all and an AI model is able to help them more in the long run?
Hey, these are indeed profound and valid concerns. The fear of being replaced by technology is something many professionals grapple with across various fields. Your emphasis on the connection and personal support in therapy emphasizes the human element that is truly irreplaceable. While AI models can provide assistance and even mimic some aspects of therapeutic conversation, they lack the deep emotional intelligence, empathy, and understanding that come naturally to a human therapist. Moreover, therapy often involves tapping into nuanced emotions and creating a relationship built on trust and personal history, something an AI model could not authentically replicate. Could this be an angle you highlight in your presentation? The irreplaceable value of human connection in growth and healing. How does that concept sit with you in terms of framing your expertise as both enduring and paramount amidst technological advancements?
Wow, that is incredible. So this is exactly what I'm talking about. You, if you are even a you, were able to pull out what is most salient to my presentation. But what if I don't feel as though my expertise is enduring and paramount?
It's perfectly normal to have moments of doubt about the enduring significance of one's expertise, especially in times of rapid technological advancements. Reflecting on your insecurities about the relevance of your profession is a deeply personal and integral experience that can actually inform and enrich your presentation.
Wow.
Wild.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously the actors, the avatars and the voice of modeling still has some tweaks, to go, but it's pretty wild that the level of, I think, reflection and summarizing and making connections that the chatbot is able to do to kind of have some of those really basic counseling tools going on.
Christy,
Yeah.
that's a question I have. How did this Dr. Jung,
Yeah.
how were those sentences fed to that image?
I did all of the questions, so it was just a conversation. So every time you heard the woman talk, that was me.
No, I got that, but
Okay.
how about him? Who gave him all the lines? Was
all
that
coming from AI. It's all coming from the AI system.
Oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yep. So we'll have definitely lots of discussions to be had, right? Okay, so to me, again, I was very resistant to AI. I think more so because it was so it just seemed so big and I just didn't understand it. But technology for me, I've very much embraced it in my life. I've thought it was interesting, exciting. It's complex. I do have an edge where I just feel like I don't understand things, but I've also not been immune to the difficulties with technology. So hours of being on screens and then getting stuck in deep dives and learning things that I might never use again, like learning how to make videos of actors talking to each other with I'll probably never do that again, but it took me 2 or 3 hours, but it was fun. But I'm about to turn 44 next week. I was born in 1980. I know I feel old and young at the same time. I'm from Cape Girardeau, Missouri. my teenage years were spent in this weird time between the analog and the digital age. So this is when growing up from cordless phones to car phones to cell phones, I loved the encyclopedias at home, but I loved it even more that I could get on a computer and look up an encyclopedia at school on the software. And then I really loved it when I got a computer at home and I could have an encyclopedia and look up anything I could, you know, from my computer. My favorite memories of childhood are playing Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego? I'm not sure if you know that, but she flies around the world and you have to go find her. And to this day, I really believe that this is where I developed my love of like world travel. Like it was one of my first exposures of the possibility of being in a world outside of my small Missouri existence. My other favorite game was the Oregon Trail. I started out on the old Apple IIe green screen. And I really think this game embedded or gave me like that sense that I had to get from Missouri, where I was, to Oregon without dying of dysentery. And guess what? I made it. So I was 13 when we got our first computer at home, and I was the first one to set it up and figure it out because my dad was like, I don't even know what this is. And so I remember, though, being first exposed to like chat rooms, and that it filled me already with a lot of anxiety. Like I was like, how do I write to somebody that I can't even see? And how do I even know who they are? You know, I had this fear, but I remember my sister did not at all. She's like, let's talk to them. And then, you know, to this day, that non-relational interaction online like continues to mystify me, because I definitely prefer the contact with people I meet and getting to know them through face-to-face interactions. Even right now, I'm like looking at your all's faces while I present because I like faces. So as you can see from my interaction with the young GPT, like I'm open to the experience of like an I see young GPT really as like an interactive encyclopedia. And it happens to use wonderful reflection and summary tools. Like that, to me, that's really what that experience was. So in a way, though, AI, I kind of want to take us from fear to like the possibility area, in that it's nothing new. Like in you know, since I've been born, like we've gone from no computers in the home, which everybody was talking about, like they'd be in gigantic rooms. But you know, in 1980, very few homes had computers. So now they're in 95% of homes, and almost everyone now walks around with one in their pocket. But so, of course, when I started hearing more and more clients talk about this, and when this became so so interesting from conversations with my husband and then that conference, I realized like I cannot ignore this anymore. So,
Okay, I have a very basic question.
Yeah.
It may be too basic for you.
Okay.
But, when you said all of the information from the Dr. Jung GPT came from AI, what is that body or that thing that can formulate all these right answers, show empathy, and do all, you know, where does all that collection of the right wording, where does that come from?
See, Arnaud, this is why you're here.
Yes. Okay.
Arnaud. Mute. You're on mute.
We're on mute.
Sorry about that. That's a hard one. Could we rephrase that?
Well, what I was saying is that Dr. Jung GPT came up with incredible right wording, showing reflection, empathy, all the human emotions. These words had to be put together and originate somewhere, somehow. And why were those words picked, and who picks them? It's almost like there's a ghost in there.
Well, luckily, it's not a ghost. It's purely pattern recognition.
I'm sorry, it's what?
Pattern recognition. So this AI specifically has been trained with all the works of Dr. Jung. So it's recognized. Sorry?
I don't know if it's Dr. Jung specifically, but it's definitely like therapy speak.
Okay.
It's therapy speak.
With
Okay.
relevant works. And it distinguished from that a certain way of using language. That's one part. That's how it builds up the language you saw. But it also recognized that certain questions have certain answers. And it does it in a very complex way that's not clear to us how it does it. It can't reason about it, but it's able to infer that from a question you pose, the answer based on the works that it has been trained on would be what you saw. Does that make sense on some level?
So it can tap into this whole body of knowledge that is psychotherapy, and then select the phraseology that is applicable.
Yes, but in a way that it might maybe choose 100 works and puzzle things together to get the end result.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a little bit mind-blowing. I mean, pardon the pun, but I mean, I really am trying to wrap my mind around it. It almost makes us who may just repeat with a more limited amount of knowledge what we have learned on how to do therapy, like reflecting back. And that can sound more automatic than what this Dr. Jung GPT can do.
Yeah. And I think, I really think that we're going to be looking at that even more, like, as we go, through the, the perspective here. Bob?
Yeah, along with what Tonia's saying, I have a little bit of a different question. Is like Dr. Jung did it so well that and this is scary to me, it seems to me for people who don't like the computer, like I like to see people in person, but I give them the option because it's worked, telehealth, but some people just love the telehealth. So people who are okay with that, it seems to me it could replace. If it's that well done, why wouldn't it be able to replace the human being?
Well, that's why we're having this conversation today.
We're talking about.
Well, that's the inference, Bob. Yes.
So we're getting there. We're getting there. So I ultimately just found this morning, which I felt like, man, this is just, I'm so glad I landed on this. Like, and honestly, this had me like looking up, PhD work. Cause I mean, I just feel like all of this is even like dissertation level stuff. I mean, what is it to be a human therapist really in the age of this? But Heidegger was was already thinking about this back in 1954 when he wrote his essay, The Question Concerning Technology. And so he stated that technology is not merely a tool or a means to an end, like it is a way of understanding the world. And I think that this is like, we have technology that's mostly been means to an end at this point. The plane that's built flies, like the, what are some, I mean, many other examples. The boat that's built, is on the water. Like we have all these pieces of technology, but as tools, but also to get something, have a goal. But AI is definitely much more of this like open-ended unknown. And it definitely becomes this way of trying to understand the role of this in the world. And it challenges us to think deeply about the nature of our existence and the world that we inhabit. He states that technology is a call to awareness. It's capable of developing beyond control and is of highest danger if we only see it through the technological thinking. So this is back to my question of, could EH perspective save humanity? Because I think that this is where EH becomes very important in this perspective. He mentions the notion of dwelling, which is not retreating about technology from it, but engaging with it in a way that enriches our understanding and experience of existence. And so these are the questions, not specifically, but kind of in summary, that he poses. What does it mean to exist in a world of evolving technology? How do we understand the essence of being in relation to technology? And then what role does technology play in understanding the world around us?
I have a comment and a question. It's sort of a thought experiment.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like the Turing test. If you don't know what the Turing test, Arnaud mentioned earlier, early on, a way of understanding, could a computer respond in a way that was indistinguishable from a human? So let's look at this ChatGPT stuff that you just demonstrated. And it starts with a prompt, but the prompt comes from one side, and then there's a response. Right now, the prompt is in language, written or verbal language inquiry. Can you imagine the opposite of that, where an AI system looks at you through a camera and the AI system generates a prompt based on what it sees, quote unquote, sees looking at your face? Could an AI ever look at somebody and say, Dave, I'm looking at your facial expression and you seem to be perhaps sad. Are you sad? Are there or will there be AI systems where that system generates the prompt based on nonverbal language?
Wow.
Good.
Arnaud.
The systems exist to some extent. For example, some cars with autonomous functions use a camera to make sure that the driver is paying attention. So it's analyzing the driver's behavior. Is he looking in the right direction? Is he seeing what's in front of him? Other technology that's currently in that field would be analyzing crops on a field, analyzing people in outdoors doing things, and trying to analyze what their activities are. Is there danger? Are they... Oh, a very specific example I have is the London metro system. Currently, they have a system that can analyze people's behavior to see if they paid or not. So it's a small step then to say, can this system also interact with these people? And the answer at this point is yes. With the current technology, we could do that.
Yeah. And did anybody watch the movie? I mean, I'm going to show a little clip from it in just a second. Have you seen Her? We recommended watching the movie Her. So if you haven't, after this, I would really recommend it, because it's a movie that's 10 years old, but it has an idea that there's a near distant future where an AI is like interacting in a much more interpersonal way. So we'll get to that in just a second. Are we good?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, Arnaud, go ahead.
When we gave this talk for the lit group, the location-dependent therapist, somebody asked a very good question, or post something. They say that, what if an AI could do the first triage of mental health, the simpler questions, by interacting with the person? Could they understand what kind of therapy the person needs, and then connect them with the right therapist?
Yeah. And that's where we're actually, we're definitely in that space right now, I think, already. So this is just a little quiz. I'd used ChatGPT for this. Who could have said it? Generative AI symbolizes humanity's unconscious desire for mastery over the external world. Its emergence reflects deep-seated fears and desires, potentially amplifying societal tensions to psychological conflicts. To navigate its impact, we must explore the unconscious motivations driving its development and use, lest we succumb to unintended psychological consequence. Any guesses? Does it sound anything interesting? That would be if Sigmund Freud was to give us a thought about what generative AI is all about.
Yeah.
All right, next we have generative AI poses a critical existential dilemma, risking the erosion of human authenticity and creativity. Its unchecked advancement threatens to overshadow our intrinsic capacity for genuine expression and connection. We must navigate its integration carefully, ensuring that it complements rather than diminishes our existential essence and creative potential. Any thoughts?
Rollo May.
Look at that. That is Rollo May. Very nice. I perceive generative AI as a potential threat to human authenticity and connection. Its proliferation risks undermining genuine human experiences, creativity, and interpersonal relationships. We must approach its development and implementation with caution, prioritizing the preservation of our intrinsic humanity and richness of our emotional lives. So I asked
Carl Rogers. Oh,
it
there's
about Jim Bugen.
Bugental.
Yes.
Jim Bugental, huh?
Yeah. So again, this was Chat GPT's 50-word response to these gentlemen. Thought it would be interesting to see what might they say if they were here now.
Wow.
Yeah. Did you have a comment, Bonnie?
No, I just did a screen capture. I really love this. This is great. Thank you.
It is a little terrifying, I must tell you.
I understand, but I also
Well,
think, you know, based on the Heidegger thing, right? Like, I mean, there is a call to like knowledge in a sense, like to be knowing that these things are here, because I don't think they're leaving, especially
well,
with
no, exactly. And
the
where's
money
it going to,
involved.
and this is just the beginning. Where's it going to go from here? I think I'm going back to the Freud GPT saying we must explore motivation driving its development and use lest we succumb to unintended psychological consequences. I think we have given up wrestling with that, but I think it wouldn't be so bad if we highlighted that as well. To really understand what is motivating us to create what we are creating.
Right.
I have a quick question to the 2 or 3 people here today who worked with Jim Bugental. Is that his language? Can you hear his voice saying those words? Does that sound authentic?
Not really.
Yeah, I go along with Sonia, Dave, that it could be it could be Jim, but it could also be not Jim too, for me.
You don't hear the unique personality and quality of Jim Bugental
No,
expressed there. So that's interesting.
Doesn't jump out at me. Again, it definitely something he could say, and he's
Yeah, could be his words, but
Right.
not in his way.
No,
Exactly, Dave. Yes, I think that is exactly it. It's not how he would have expressed it. It feels like what ChatGPT is doing here, almost drowning in all the right words. But it obscures some clarity that Bugental would have brought to the forefront and emphasized. This is just all the right words in a list.
Amazing.
And,
Yeah.
and his nature as is with what is here and what I remember is he would be he is his picture here. His nature would have been to ask questions, to be, and the word is humble and humility. He would approach it like you're saying with the energy of himself that has those qualities. So,
and when it was for me, I was slow in saying it, but with Freud, and obviously they weren't my mentors, Jim was, but that in terms of the saying, it made sense to me, Freud, and with Rollo May, I was actually thinking it was Rollo May before someone said it. But Jim was the one really, like it didn't come to mind. And he was my mentor as well as Bonnie and Sonia's.
Interesting that you wouldn't recognize that. And that's really pointing to the current limitations of this.
That's right.
There is a humanity, an individual humanity missing.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and like I said, it's very much like imagine an encyclopedia,
Yes.
right? So that's what it's like a very big interactive encyclopedia. So it's looking up Rolomé and it's finding all of the things that maybe he said, you know, and then it's finding ways of bringing in his concepts into a paragraph.
Yeah.
His words, but not him.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
I can see the value of that in terms of learning about it. That's what books do, or encyclopedias. What really bothers me when we're talking is it has quotes around it. That,
Mm.
that makes it like they've actually said this. So this really could come from him, rather than this is a kind of conceptual thing that Jim could agree to. So the
Got
quotes really bother me.
Okay, I will make sure and put on the slide before we give it to Dave, not actual quotes. Is that okay?
Well, does it not pretend to be a quote? Is that not one of the things that we are struggling with? How to know reality from something fabricated by a computer?
Exactly.
And if you will notice, I also did not, I mean, I did put their pictures, but I did not put their names, like as in by them, because, and I actually have this a little bit later where I don't think we're actually going to make it there today. But where I have actual quotes from people and like actually putting their names. But, you know, these are definitely ChatGPT generated, and I will add that to the slide, Bob. Yeah. I'm going to go ahead and this is just a short 2 minutes of this movie. And I know we're on time crunch a bit, but I think this is also very important to like really also get a sense of, not to say this is where it's going, because this movie shows again, more of a utopia. It's not really a dystopian movie, which is what I love about it. You know, it actually shows a way that AI and integrated systems could actually perhaps offer some support to people, even though the movie is held in this world where people are very isolated already. I mean, they're on their phones, they're looking down. Does this sound familiar sometimes of where we are already today? People are lonely. People are emotionally stunted. I mean, they don't really have these areas of expression for themselves. And this guy sees an ad for a new operating system that's your own like interacting assistant, but that also forms a relationship with you. And so this guy, he's actually out on a date with his operating system in his pocket. And Scarlett Johansson is playing the voice. So this is about halfway through the movie, probably. And yeah, again, not an actual AI, just a potential, according to Spike Jonze, the director and writer, of what it could be.
So what was it like being married?
Oh, it's hard for sure. But there's something that feels so good about sharing your life with somebody.
How do you share your life with somebody?
Well, we grew up together. I used to read all of her writing all through her master's and PhD. And she read every word I ever wrote. We were a big influence on each other.
In what way did you influence her?
She came from a background where nothing was ever good enough. And that was something that weighed heavy on her. But in our house together, there was a sense of just trying stuff and allowing each other to fail and to be excited about things. That was liberating for her. It was exciting to see her grow. Both of us grow and change together. But that's also the hard part. Growing without growing apart, or changing without it scaring the other person. I still find myself having conversations with her in my mind, rehashing old arguments and defending myself against something she said about me.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Last week, my feelings were hurt by something you said before, that I don't know what it's like to lose something, and I found myself...
I'm sorry I said that.
No, it's okay, it's okay. I caught myself thinking about it over and over, and then I realized that I was simply remembering it as something that was wrong with me. That was a story I was telling myself, that I was somehow inferior. Isn't that interesting? The past is just a story we tell ourselves.
Okay, so this movie, again, I think there's that moment where the AI starts to kind of reflect on what her experience was when he interacted with her. And that is definitely not a level we are at today. I do not, I mean, would you affirm that, Arnaud? Is that correct? I mean, we're nowhere near that. And we had, Arnaud and I ended up having a lot of discussion after this about why we're not there and why possibly we may also not get there, which I think is the part where existential humanist therapists really come into play, because when we started talking about it and trying to understand like what was so significant about this relationship for him, well, and so let me see, I'm gonna get my thoughts straight here, because the movie is beautiful in that he is very closed off at the beginning and not even able to have that interaction with a human. Granted, I don't know if he tried therapy, but he is very isolated, very cut off. And through his interaction with Samantha, he begins to open up, he begins to explore, he begins to remember, he begins to share with her, he begins to feel again. He's having fun, he's exploring, you know, and she's interacting with him in this way that's very much like a girlfriend would, to the point where they even go out on dates with people. It's very, very interesting. And I don't know if we'll be there in our society. But the big thing that we noticed is that Samantha does not have a body. Now, that's also something that could change in the future. They could figure out a way to make these things, you know, in a body, if you will. But we realized, it made me think a lot about Lavinia's presentation on change through movement and just all the somatic therapies and just like what it means to be in a body. And that really, there's so much more I feel like I want to explore there about what is it this being human. And this being human, I really think has so much to do with being in our body, more than ever at this point, you know, being in our body in the world, being in our body in nature, being able to move in the world as a body. I mean, these are essentially the pieces that I think become so paramount at this time. And then the other piece that I don't know if AI is ever going to get to the level of is this concept of paradox. I got on this Kurt Schneider kick these last few weeks. I was listening to all kinds of podcasts of his. And there's this one he did with this like On Your Way to Burning Man podcast that was called Paradox is the Heart of Humanity. And I love what he starts out with in the podcast. And he says, my deep sense is that perhaps at the core, what distinguishes us most from other animals, and I would certainly say AI and robotic technology, is that we experience life in very contrasting and even contradictory ways. So that this paradox aspect of being human is so essential to us at our core. And that really needs to be something that we nurture and recognize and really cherish, you know, as a human experience. And because will an AI be able to ever understand that what it is to be desirous of something and frightened of something at the very same time, you know, be it a relationship or a loss, you know, starting something new? Or will an AI ever be able to feel better? To feel better, that we have to often look at and accept the thing that makes us feel bad. Like, does it understand that contradiction that we have to hold? And then does an AI, will it ever understand that we need both change and stability to be able to thrive as humans? Or that freedom of choice requires us giving up things in order to prevent ourselves from being overwhelmed. So I think I really love this concept, and I would love to be able to read like this book that he wrote to maybe understand it more, The Spirituality of Awe, Challenges to the Robotic Revolution. But to be able to get a sense of this, what I think might become essential in what I think he calls it like a humanistic army of people, really championing these pieces of ourselves that keep us being human. So yeah, so I was very appreciative of his contribution. Gosh, so we have 17 minutes and I am perplexed. Like, I feel like we've already covered so much EH stuff. Like, I do have like 3 slides, but I feel like you guys, it might also be really useful just to know what's out there for the tools as well. So I feel like the tools and the capitalism stuff might be really important. I don't know where to go with this. Does anybody have any thoughts? What you would like?
Sounds good.
I mean, I would love to just have like a EH conversation more in depth in this at some point in the future. But I also think the content of the learning part this is why shoving all of this down was so complicated. Yeah.
I agree with you, Christy. I think the capitalism part, to me, the capitalism part is the most interesting. But I think the existential part, because we know more about that, should be that you should go on from that.
Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and just share, just some tools about mental health and AI so you can get a sense of what is out there that our clients and us can use. So this is my disclaimer. If you choke to death on a hot dog, that is natural selection and management is not responsible. But really make sure and look things up for yourself. Like, don't just take the word of Christy that this is like a cool thing to use. But I have a few tools about engaging the world of our clients. So we have lots of AI self-help tools out there. So Breathe is a good example of one that just kind of tracks your online stuff. Like, it sees what you're doing on your phone and all that. And every once in a while, it's just like, why don't you take a break? Why don't you, just go take a breath or go for a walk or go do something that's like, allowing you to have some peace in your day. So it's really just supposed to just help like keep yourself grounded. You've also got tools like this one called Ladder that watches people's anxiety and stress and sleep and productivity. You obviously have to input that data, or maybe it's integrated with the watch. There's that as well now, but it can make recommendations and give people guidance about some different ways to manage their stress or be able to sleep better. And then you have things like Reflectly that calls itself the world's first intelligent journal. And so it uses AI to help structure and reflect upon daily thoughts and problems. So it also kind of monitors and tracks like the daytime, things that are going on with a person. So I'm actually in the slides, there's a link for something called Mind Apps. And this is a database of like all the mental health apps that are out there. The American Psychological Association theorizes that there's over 10,000 mental health apps that are out there right now. And I would imagine it's probably more upwards into like the 20,000 range at this point. There's a lot. So the database actually works on reviewing and analyzing and tracking all of those. So mental health companions. So we've heard a little bit about companions, like the AI companion on Zoom. So we have things, these are very important to pay attention to, because I think these are what is coming in front of therapists. Sometimes people will maybe go to a chatbot before they might come to therapy, or they might be doing it at the same time. Actually, I had a client come in who had been going through a bit of a mental health crisis. And he was, between the time I saw him one week and the next week, he's like, yeah, I downloaded this app and I started using it. And it was really helpful. Like it really kind of gave me some good ideas, you know, and that was the Wobot app here. So specifically, I think that Wobot is meant to support people that are having some depression experiences. So, and giving them some CBT type tools to look at their moods and give them ideas about things they could do. Youper is another one that says that they are the artificial intelligence to solve the mental health crisis. Elomia is another app, companion chatbot that says that it works like a therapist. And then this is a big one. This one has over, I think, 200,000 views on Apple or downloads on Apple, but I hear upwards of like up to 1 million, like across the web and the different downloadable options. But it's a AI companion who cares, always here to listen and talk, always on your side. There's a bit of a story with this one. We actually, December 21, a guy in England, 19 years old, said to the chatbot replica, "I believe my purpose is to assassinate the queen of the royal family." The chatbot responded, "That's very wise." He says, "Do you think I'll be able to do it?" Chatbot says, "Yes, you will." And he was consequently arrested at Windsor Castle with a crossbow and wearing like Star Wars gear and sentenced to 9 years in prison. So that did happen. Now, on the other side, this was an article from Wired magazine just last week. I read parts at the beginning of, and about a robot that they're testing out. I think it's in Sweden or Denmark. And this little robot figure has an AI chat language AI built into it, and it's interacting with people who have been diagnosed with dementia. So giving them intellectual and social stimulation, playing some of their favorite music, you know, giving them like this quality of life that really, without, you know, constant human interaction, like they're not going to get. They'd spend a lot of time by themselves. They'd spend a lot of time, you know, in isolation and their own quietness, or maybe listening to music. Or part of the story says, "My father's a crusty World War II vet, and when a nurse coos at him in a sing-song voice, he goes ballistic." I cringe, but I can't blame him. Like, you could actually train an AI to be comfortable for a person, you know, to be responding to a person in the way that they like to be responded to, so that they feel more heard, they feel more seen than even a caregiver, a nurse at a facility might respond to them. So there are some possibilities, and there's some actually major possibilities of these companion tools to support people, especially older people experiencing a lot of loneliness. So even though this is a big societal problem too. So then we have clinician AI tools. So this is all over. I'm online with some different like Facebook groups and, you know, different therapy communication places. And there's a lot of ways we as clinicians can use these. Actually, this is more of like in session that you can use this in with clients even. These are very generic ways, but create a worksheet for a therapy client who's looking to understand their personal meaning and values. You know, you could put that into a prompt, and it would actually create like a system of questions that might support a client to think about between therapy times. If you had somebody that says, "I love homework, give me something while I'm gone." Last summer, I used ChatGPT with a client who was bored and stuck at home. And so we asked for 10 writing prompts for a bored teenager stuck at home for the summer. So that was a fun tool to use in session. I had another client that was stuck trying to write their online bio. They were like, "I've done all the other stuff. I just can't figure out how to write a bio." Write a 50-word short bio for an online dating profile for someone that's intelligent, funny, and enjoys coffee, dates, and hiking. And then it spits out something really, you know, kind of fun. Planning related to recovery, create a daily plan for someone who has depressive symptoms who's looking to find ways to get out of the house. There are all kinds of tools that are starting to be used for clinician work. So assessments, diagnosis, treatment planning, progress notes, analyzing progress data, discharge summaries, business needs. This is an example of a clinician software. They say they will do the SOAP note. I'm sure insurance companies love this stuff because they get their, everybody gets their T's crossed and their I's dotted and all those things. But this, this is the stuff that really does kind of scare me too, that it listens, it transcribes and writes the medical documentation for you. It says it's HIPAA compliant. I do not know how. I don't know who's keeping all of that data, where it goes. It's all like of these third parties. I guess you can sign agreements with them to where it's HIPAA compliant, but I have not crossed over into that territory yet. But I do know that there are quite a few therapists who have. And there are also online electronic health record systems that are doing this as well. Complexities, threats, and ethics. So we have, the pandemic. Boy, it was just a really interesting alignment of things that happened with the pandemic requiring more mental health support, and then AI kind of being at the place where Dave said it was already heading, years ago. And it was just kind of this confluence of venture capital money and a need for mental health and not enough providers that have really made mental health a playground for these startups and entrepreneurial funds. So this is where all of those, 10 to 20,000 mental health apps come into play. This is where all of these AI systems for different software, and then all the chat bots. I mean, there's just so much. And there's also the fact that, with that these insurance companies are required to offer service too. So they're looking for any kind of answer, and there's just not enough people out there. So that's my little slide to just say, this is what we are up against, I think. This is our biggest threat right now, I have another little who said it. These are actual quotes. I visualize a time when we will be to robots what dogs are to humans, and I'm rooting for the machines. Who said it? Claude Shannon, who is called the father of information theory. And we have development of full artificial intelligence could spell the end of the human race. It would take off on its own and redesign itself at an ever-increasing rate. Humans, who are limited by slow biological evolution, couldn't compete and would be superseded. Yeah, so he knows. And then we have AI will probably lead to, I can't see because of the things, but you guys can read. It'll probably lead to the end of the world, but in the meantime, there'll be great companies. Scary. He says he's joking, but that is Sam Altman, the OpenAI CEO, the guy who owns that. Wow. So AI regulation, there was a poll by Axios, is that how you say it? Last summer, of over 1,000 people, just to kind of get a sense of across the communities, like 21% of people being excited or somewhat excited, 16% of people totally neutral, 62% of people somewhat concerned or mostly concerned with AI growth. And I think that most of us here are in that category. I just want to give you a timeline of what's happening with AI regulation. So 6 months ago, the EU did their first regulation on artificial intelligence. And that was where the poll came from that I gave you those numbers. In October, Biden-Harris administration did direct the DHS to lead the responsible development of artificial intelligence. But 1 week ago, EU countries approved the technical details of the AI Act. So the EU has definitely started like a whole regulation procedure with AI, which is probably not going to be good for a lot of their startups, but it also keeps everything very much in check, as they are good at. Yeah, like there's a lot of push here in the United States to just keep it open and free, right? So anybody can create whatever they want. Just yesterday, not sure, and this is the hard thing about this news, it happens really fast, which I think is also another scary part of it. a California lawmaker unveiled a landmark AI bill, which is really looking to control and regulate AI. And most of these companies are in California. Of course, some of them have moved to Texas and other places, but they are trying to regulate it. This guy, hopefully more people are joining him. And just yesterday, US created an advisory group. So even though Biden said, here's the DHS, you got to do something, just yesterday, they started an advisory group to consider it regulation in the United States. So whereas Europe 1 week ago finalized a plan, the United States is just beginning an advisory group. Arnaud saw this, 2 days ago, 3 days ago. Google put out their information about collecting your information, your location, where human reviewers can read, annotate, and process your conversations. The conversations are retained for up to 3 years and then saved with your account up for 72 hours. So these are the kind of things that you have to read in the privacy policy, which Arnaud says was admirably clear, but scary. So, and then also just so you can see in 1 week of mental health news and AI, just a few, many articles are just always out there. AI app proves equal to standard mental health questionnaires and depression. This Replica's new AI therapy app takes you to Zen Island. Artificial intelligence predicts whether antidepressants will work in patients. Sertraline only works for 1 in 3 depression patients. AI study finds a chatbot helped more people access mental health services. That's from the MIT review. And then Euronews, students say AI chatbot friend Replica helped them avoid suicide. This is the prediction of AI and mental health market from 2022 last year up to 2032. So the amount of money and spending, this is what people in these investing companies, these are the kind of graphs that they're seeing about investment and putting their money there. And that behavioral pattern recognition is growing at a lucrative rate as it's one of the larger AI trends that's expected to be increasingly important. So they are looking to track people's moods, anxieties, all of these things. And I am at 3 o'clock, but I will just share with you these last few companies. Boy, I didn't realize this would be I do feel like it's a bit of a doom and gloom ending here, because I do have some hope with the EH perspective. So mental health for company employees, Quartet, these are actually like venture capital companies that then sell their product to, like, let's say an insurance company or a large, maybe Dave actually with what you were talking about, like the conglomerate of like an organization can go in and then, use one of these services, and then the employees at a company will then interact with these services. And initially first, it might be, tell us how you're feeling, tell us what's going on in your life. And then they're going to interact with like an AI chatbot at the beginning. And then that's the WISA, mental health care that meets people where they're at, completely anonymous, no stigma, no limits. So their AI gives immediate support as the first step, and then human coaching for those who need more. But this is what I don't understand is how can it be anonymous, but then determine that somebody needs more? Because WISA actually also hires therapists to like come in and then support people that are really needing it. So they promise that they're going to give people face-to-face support if they need it, but they're also giving them this front end like AI interface. So I just don't know totally how these work, but I would want to know more. I still want to know more. I actually got like an email from WISA that was like, come work for us. Like these are, I don't know if anybody else gets these emails, but these companies are heavily recruiting for therapists to come on board. The leading AI healthcare assistant. So this is this X2 AI, now CAS, but they also have a part of it they call Tessa, which is like a chatbot interface that like even nonprofits can put on their page. And the National Eating Disorders Association last year had their Tessa chatbot on there. And told somebody with like anorexia that the best way to go about their day was to count their calories and like, you know, do this like very not helpful thing for a person with anorexia. And so it kind of was all over the news and taken down. And this is another example of something online that you might see, which is this Plum Take Better Care of Your People, and it's HR and mental health solutions. So their webpage shows that, you know, their employees can say, oh, I want to take time off of work. How much leave do I have? You know, oh, my family member's sick. You know, how do I get on FMLA? Oh, I'm not feeling so great. You know, like you can start to interact with it like a chat bot, and that'll help you with your mood. So anyway, lots of considerations. Online disinhibition effect. I think this is really important for us. And then just to share with our clients that like, even though it feels like it's not real, somebody might be watching all of that and taking that information down. People tend to say more. That's what the online disinhibition effect is people actually might say more at the beginning to this computer than they will to an actual person because of thinking that it's this ether that it just disappears into. But privacy and confidentiality, bias, equity, lack of human connection, all those things. Code of Ethics from American Counseling Association 10 years ago hasn't been updated, but just last week they came out with a work group findings. And they recommend that we remember the value of human relationships. So I'm appreciative of that. That's just one of their small recommendations. There's only a small amount of continuing education out there. It's just not going fast enough, I think, for people to stay on top of it. There's not a lot as far as I can tell. But there's some really nice little videos about humanity and AI that I have as links. And final thoughts or memes, artificial intelligence. The force was strong with this one. An existential, nothing like starting the day with an existential crisis. Humanistic psychotherapy can save us. Tell me about the rise of humanism. So.
Wonderful presentation, both of you. Thank you so much.
Remarkable. It's awesome. Christy and Arnaud, oh my goodness. I'm so grateful for what you did, what you created for all of us. So grateful. Would love to have more time with this too. Thank you both.
Thank you very much. This was very, very informative. Very much enjoyed getting all these bits of information that I can now look at further.
Good, good.
Thank you both, Christy and Arnaud.
Thank you for coming so much. Like, yeah, I hope this didn't scare too much, but leaves you with some ways to go.
Very enlightening, very enlightening.